Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, April 22nd Washougal City Council meeting. I would ask that you please rise and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Rose, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Boger.
Here.
Councilmember Plinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Greenlee.
Here.
Councilmember Lindsay.
Here.
Councilmember McDaniel.
Here.
Councilmember Shoemaker.
Here.
Councilmember Freeman.
Here.
Thank you. We do have, I know, one amendment to the agenda this evening. Under new business, we'll be adding item B, which will be Agenda Bill 1413, which should be at all of your desks tonight in regards to the Liberty Land and Development request for easement. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. Any correspondence?
No.
We are at the first opportunity in the agenda for anyone from the public that would like to address council. Anyone at all? First opportunity. Going right on by it. Another opportunity later in the meeting. We did, just for folks who weren't here earlier, we did have a work session before this meeting in which we had a presentation from the CREDC, just an update on their efforts going forth in 2013 and also some of their accomplishments from 2012. We also heard some information from one of our fire chiefs in regards to some changes in our firework regulations, potentially to be approved by council and take effect in 2014. We chatted for a few minutes about some street easement vacations down in the Port Marina area, and then also some information came to us in regards to the Liberty Land easement, which we'll be discussing a little bit later in the agenda tonight. At this point, we are at our consent agenda. That agenda this evening consists of 4 items. The workshop minutes from the joint Camas-Washougal meeting on April 8th. Your council minutes from April 8th as well. Our regular accounts payable claims in the amount of $451,209.20. And Agenda Bill 12-13, an authorization for the mayor to sign the Colorado Ridge Heights, also known as Colorado Ridge, final plat approval. Council?
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. Takes us on to new business. Item number A, Agenda Bill 1313, adopting a resolution to set a public hearing for a vacation of right-of-way property located in the Port of Camas-Washougal business area. Dave?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. As Jim presented at the workshop, before you is a resolution which will set a public hearing so that you can hear from the public regarding the proposed vacation of right-of-way located in the Port of Camas-Washougal business area. So the recommended action is to read the resolution by title only and then to pass and post the resolution in the usual manner, setting the hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we read the resolution by title only.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
A resolution scheduling a public hearing on petition for vacation of portion of First Street, Adams and Front Street, Columbus Street, Unnamed Street, and Washington Street in the city of Washougal.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pass the resolution as stated.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to pass the resolution. Council comments, questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Takes us to new agenda item 1413, setting a public hearing for Liberty Land and Development request for easement. Mitch?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you for putting this together so quick.
Not a problem. As we discussed at the work session, Liberty Land and Development is requesting that the City Council grant an easement across open space within the Riverview Terrace subdivision to benefit one lot within the city of Camas. We are required by state law to have a public hearing on this item. Therefore, the agenda bill before you is to set a public hearing for May 13th at May 13th, 2013 at 7 p.m.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we set the public hearing for the Liberty Land Development easement for May 13th, 2013 at 7 p.m.
I've got a motion and a second to set the public hearing for May 13th at 7 p.m. Council discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mitch. Well, that takes care of most of the agenda for this evening. That was quick. We're now at that second opportunity for any public comment. Anyone that would wish to address council? John?
Well, just in case, Mr. Mayor, I get hit by a pie truck between now and then, I would just, from the conversations, agree with some of the comments that you'd go ahead and not charge the port because you're partners with the port in Quita already. And I think you all know the port won Port of the Year award from the Washington Public Ports Association this year. And Steigerwall had to be a big part of that, and the fact that Dave Ripp sat on the committee that selected the Port of the Year, I think he did. That could have had some influence. But anything you can do to help the port, I think we're all helping the city too. So I would encourage you to, I'll probably say it again if I'm here when they have that meeting, but I think it's a good deal. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else that would like to address council? Okay. Under Mayor's report, I've got 3 items for you. First one, let's chat for just a second about the Liberty Land item. Don, I know you weren't copied on the original one. I copied you on a reply that I sent today in regards to the email that council received from Mike Green from Liberty Land. Do you have any problems if council members take him up on his offer to do site tours, answer questions, all of that outside of council chambers?
I think that's probably okay. It's statutory, it's a legislative action, I believe, so it might be well to do it all in one time if you can arrange a time when everybody can do it.
I guess I have to set a hearing though, if you,
Or set,
hearing.
yeah, I mean,
Oh, that's true. You're right. Maybe two small groups or something.
Two, and
I've already seen it. Oh,
Yeah, I've been.
we've seen a couple
Yeah,
of us.
I'm actually as interested in talking to some of the adjoining landowners as I am or homeowners.
I believe this is a legislative action. I think you can look into it and take whatever, there's gonna be a public hearing, you can listen to that too. I think this is be the 3rd public hearing in town, this particular.
at least.
There's different folks involved now too, so. I don't see a problem with that.
Do you want council members to keep track of those communications and
I think it's wise.
be ready to
Write down names and maybe just make a little walk of what they said.
do you want me to be prepared on that, on our next meeting date to be able to, just to declare that they've had those contacts, or do we need to be, my question is, do we need to be worried about any kind of a quasi judicial thing coming forward?
Because it's statutory, I really think it's a legislative action, and I don't think that's required.
Okay. Any questions from council members? Okay. Second item I have for you is some information coming forth from the fire consolidation talks, and just to bring you up to speed where Camus in their workshops last week had some discussions, and I know Dave and the chiefs and Nina have a meeting tomorrow. What the Camus Council has kind of suggested as a path forward in order to, one, still keep some eyeballs on the entire process, and two, move it forward in as efficient manner as we can, is for the committee comprised of the members that it was comprised of before, so I believe that was Dave, Brent, and Connie Jo, to meet one more time to go over and contemplate what ways or shapes the future forward would be. Is that a consolidation? Is it a consolidation with both departments still, or still, both councils still having control? Is it a consolidation and a contract for services, or where does that go? but not really intended to be a long, drawn-out committee process, just pretty much where do you all think this should go? Following that one, then basically turning the city administrators and the fire chiefs free to go ahead and chase all of that down and try and get that into a fashion that is acceptable, bring that back to the committee again for a look-see, and then potentially at that point, bringing that forward or making any changes, then bringing it forward to councils for their consideration. Any comments from council in regards to that process? Paul?
I would just say that I have a strong preference for an interlocal agreement as to some other, truly consolidating the fire department, turning it into a Camas Fire Department, which we then contract for services with. I'm not happy with that idea at all. I'm much more comfortable with an interlocal agreement because it's much easier to have exit strategies.
I would concur. Can this all get done by the end of the year when the current agreement expires?
Dave, your thoughts? You all know the speed I want it moving forward in, so that's.
I think it can. I think two main issues. One is what the structure will be, and then the other is what's the cost and how do we share the cost, and reaching agreement on both of those items. Everything else will fall into place. There's lots and lots of details, but those are not going to hold things up. We have to work through with the bargaining unit and some of those things. But the two big issues are what structure will it take, and then what does it cost, and how do we share the cost? I think we can have something prepared and ready for possible consideration before the end of the year. And if for some reason we aren't able to do that, it would be relatively straightforward to extend the current scenario for whatever length of time would be appropriate to allow the completion of the process. So if we need to add a month or 2 months or a quarter, but our goal will be to bring it as quickly as we can, but to do a good job.
I suggest that, the first step is to bring the committee back together, and that, let's get that scheduled as soon as reasonably possible. Just my opinion.
Any other questions, concerns?
Yeah.
Jennifer?
I just concur with Councilman Boger. I would really like to see the committee reconvene and bring forward their expedited recommendation to both councils.
Just one other thing to reiterate on my part is that I've taken a position in the past, which I continue to hold, that the volunteer fire department in the city of Washougal is a crucial piece of the fabric of our community. And I would not be happy with any agreement that disbands them or anything like that.
I would agree. Have you heard of anything coming forward to do that?
I'm not hearing anything, so I'm operating in a vacuum, and I just want to make sure that people understand that I have a very strong position about protecting the existence, the ongoing existence of the volunteer firefighters in Washougal.
A fee for service, where we just basically have the Camas Fire Department, that would effectively that would probably end
Yes.
the volunteer program, wouldn't it?
No.
No?
To bring you up to speed, we did have a meeting 2 weeks ago now. Everything runs together. Anyway, one of the, with the fire command staff, and one of the items that I brought forward as we move forward in this is still, and I recognize too late after our joint meeting 2 weeks ago, that the topic of volunteers did not come up in that meeting, but that's not to say that there's any less of a desire to make sure that that organization stays together. My comments to the chiefs in the following meeting was that is still a deal breaker for me. And if there's any consideration of that happening, that effectively, from my side, ends any talks of consolidation moving forward. They have no desire whatsoever to do away with the volunteer department either. In the last week, I know we've had some information going back and forth between the leadership of the volunteers and Chief Swinhart specifically and myself in a question of exactly what can we do, all of those type of things, this and that, and they were assured that they are welcome and appreciated to be turning out to Camas fire calls and medical calls as well. They are welcome to backfill at those stations, although currently we don't have any additional apparatus at those stations for them to be able to take out, but we're trying to sort through some of those. And then I put back to the volunteers as well. We should have an agreement coming forward, hopefully within the next couple of meetings, one to be workshopped and then one for approval of an actual contract between the City of Washougal and the Washougal Volunteer Fire Department. That's something that was asked for. I don't think we were directed and required to have it, but it was one of those things coming out of last year's audits that was recommended that we maybe have something formally in place, even though they're actually mentioned in our city code as well. But that will be coming forward, that spells out what they do for us in exchange for the monies that we put into the volunteer program on an annual basis. I've asked them in that process to think about, and I could care less myself how it comes back, to think about if they want to look at a potential name change for that rather than remaining as the Washougal Volunteer Fire Department. If they want to become whatever the new department becomes, Volunteer Fire Department or whatever that happened to be. So I know I've been contacted back by a couple of the leaders of the organization that said that was a very good point, and they'll take that under consideration and see where that may go. So all of that's coming forward as well. Our city attorneys are putting in time on the agreements to have those put in place, and none of that is being done, and we're not expending those dollars to turn around and eliminate the department. That's still a deal breaker in this whole thing. So, but again, there's no discussion I don't know of any discussions anybody's having other than actually increasing the role and responsibilities of our volunteers. So, Dave?
As chair of the Regional Fire Authority Planning Committee, I'm not aware that there was ever any discussion to eliminate the volunteers or to in any way disadvantage them. And I think if anybody would like to look back through the minutes, any comment on the volunteers in there was very positive, coming from either side. So I don't think that's an issue for us going forward. Thank you.
Kanju?
I just wonder about the volunteers. I'd sure love to hear from them. I don't know if they want to come and talk to us or if we need to go to them. I have a letter right here that I know all of us got, that one in particular, I don't know if how many he's speaking for, is very concerned that they will be ousted, I guess you could say. I realize that you're saying it isn't on the table, and we're saying it's not on the table.
Do you have a copy of that?
I just got it in the mail. It's dated, arrived here on the 19th from Charles Crumpacker.
Need the mayor?
Yeah.
A different Crumpacker. Where's the Mayor Crumpacker?
Yeah, I got one.
So I'm just wondering, are there a few of those volunteers or some,
Well, yeah.
that they're concerned? Some of them must be.
Unfortunately, former Mayor Crumpacker didn't send us a copy of this, so this is the first time I'm seeing
Uh-huh.
this. And Chuck is no longer part of the volunteer fire department. He is retired how many years ago, Larry?
5.
The volunteers were polled along with all of the Washougal paid staff, my understanding, in a, I'm not sure what you call it. There was a survey done by Chief Swinhart that had the ability for everybody to respond back to the survey blindly, but everybody could only respond once, da-da-da-da-da. There were no, I don't think he had access to any of the names of the respondents or any of that type of stuff. Out of all of the volunteers, the information he gave back to us is that there were only 4 out of them that had concerns about the consolidation moving forward, and only 1 paid.
Can we get a copy of that?
Sure.
We request that from Chief? especially those of us on the RFA. It'd be good to have as documentation that there is no major concern in the fact that this gentleman's not there anymore. It's interesting. I mean, I want to respect his comments, you know, and
If you don't mind, if we
investigate.
get a copy of that so
Sure.
that we've got one as well.
Can I give this to you to make copies for folks?
So, Jennifer?
Maybe it came to me because of my RFA, I don't know.
Well,
No,
One-
I received one
Did
as
you?
well.
Yeah, I got one, but on this topic, there's another, I'm sorry.
Jennifer?
I just wanted to ask a quick question regarding a potential agreement with the volunteers in their organization. Will there be some detail as far as duties and expectations from volunteers? I'm sorry, I don't know who to direct this to.
Yes, yes, there's,
That's the purpose of the agreement.
right, and some of that already exists, but the agreement, the primary purpose of the agreement is to meet the audit requirement, because we spend money directly to that organization. So yes, the agreement would have to document what the city receives in exchange for that payment, so that it is an auditable and or a better auditable expense. But yes, there's quite a rigorous currently, and I'm sure that our volunteer that's here could tell you, but there's quite a rigorous set of obligations that volunteers currently have. It's a point system. You have to do certain things, and any agreement that we engage with them will continue that or tighten that or enhance that. There's a lot of things that need to be clarified just over the years. Things have changed. So it's a very positive thing that we're working together with them on. They approached us as part of it, and part of it was us because of the audit. So when we come back with that for you in workshop, we'll be able to go through that in detail.
Excellent. I have met actually with some of the volunteer firefighters, and they do have concerns with a merger with regard to respect, you know, as far as the Camas firefighters, and, you know, they had done away with their volunteer program. So, you know, sometimes they feel like they aren't really given the respect that a full-time firefighter would be given when it comes to calls and such. So I would definitely like to see something in writing that we would agree to, and maybe Camas as well, if we would consider going into a merger.
Any interlocal agreement that we engage with Camas, the current one that we have, in general terms, embraces the volunteer program. But if we enter, it's a temporary document, of course. Any long-term document, interlocal agreement, the direction that I currently have from the mayor, and I'm hearing from the council as well, I'm hearing the exact same thing from councilors this evening as I've heard from the mayor the whole time, and that is it is to be enhanced, that what we currently have is to be enhanced, and any interlocal agreement that we would engage with Camas, we wouldn't bring it for you consideration unless we saw that that was in there. And whatever structure the councils decide is appropriate, if there is a permanent consolidation, it will be an interlocal agreement. That is the vehicle for any agreement that you undertake between two communities. But the details of which are what's very important, what the scope of that is. But whatever scope that it has, if it's going to be permanent, I think you have the pledge of the mayor, and we have your direction as well, and I'm glad to know that it's the same. And it will be to embrace and enhance the volunteer service that we have. And we would like the word Camas to be associated with that as well. And in fact, if I recall, some of the newest members that came on board recently are Camas residents. And so I think that's a first step in a reinvigoration of a sense of Camas with respect to the volunteer program. But there's no doubt about the history that happened. I wasn't here, but I've heard those fears too, and I certainly understand them. And you know, I think those are legitimate fears. All we can do at this point is continue to pledge, as the administration, that that is not the direction that it's headed, and we haven't heard anything from the folks that we're dealing with in Camas that would say anything different than what we're shooting for in that, with the chief and with the mayor there. We'll do the best we can to make sure that that happens as timely as it possibly can. And but this is going to be a very significant conversation for the two councils. It's one of the largest pieces of your general fund budget. It's a very, very important service and program in the community, and we don't take that lightly. We take it very seriously, and what the level of service is going to be and how we share the costs. And but I have a lot of confidence in the partnership moving forward about equity and doing the right thing. So I'm really looking forward to working on this, and hopefully we'll find a way to continue the path forward in a way that is acceptable to both communities and will take us to the next level. We will get something scheduled as soon as we can. Sounds like we have consensus between the two councils that this approach that we're suggesting would be a good approach, and we're off and running.
Great, thank you.
Great.
I think it's more appropriate for the reconstituted and renamed RFA committee. I'm not going to, it's kind of getting into the weeds tonight with this council. Well, reserve it for that.
Final item I have for you, an item for your calendars for those members that are available on Saturday. And my apologies that this is coming to you kind of short notice. I would like to do what I'm calling kind of a little mini workshop in regards to our downtown plan on Saturday.
Good Lord.
1:30 to 3:30 in the afternoon. One of the things we're waiting for, Mr. Hickey will be traveling back to Washougal this week and will be in town over the weekend. And I would kind of like, as we go through the start of this discussion, or a continued discussion for folks who have been in the community for a number of years, what I'd like to do is to be able to have both Wes and potentially Pendleton, if they are available, and they said they would be more than willing and were appreciative to be included in the process. So now they're just checking schedules, to be available as well as the two largest single property owners anywhere in our described downtown core. So on Saturday, what we hope to accomplish is to start out with Mitch to go through and give you an overview of what our current downtown plan is, what parts it contains, what things it emphasizes, what things we have done to date to accomplish those goals that we have in that plan as it was approved. And then potentially get into some discussions on the infrastructure upgrades that we look forward to doing downtown in streets, and those things that we know we have to do to make it all ready as we get down towards the 32nd Street area. Most likely some discussion on parking. Parking continues. It's a wonderful thing to have a parking problem, but it is a problem. So we'll devote a little bit of time to some short-term things that we may be able to do on that as well. And then open a little bit of time for Mr. Hickey and Mr. Bishop to be able to talk about their long-term plans, and some of those plans are likely very long-term. And then some open dialogue for council, for the public, for other business owners and that type of stuff that may want to give us input, ask questions, bring up things that we haven't thought of, and begin to move that direction. I think most definitely downtown is one of those things that in our whole scheme of strategic planning came up under a number of different areas, and we all know that we've had opportunities downtown, and that downtown is seeing some growth and some turnover. Those of you that key into the newspapers may have seen that we've got another tenant down in the main building, Town Square building. We've got an attorney moving in there. We've got some other things happening on the east end of town where properties have sold, and additional businesses coming in. So my belief is that we're going to see more sooner than later coming to us in regards to the downtown, and I want to make sure that the council is up to speed on what those plans are, that we're in agreement as a municipality of what we are doing moving forward. Let those folks who are, if you would, the heavy hitters that are involved in the conversation chat with us about what they envision, what they would like to see, and how we might be able to all get there, and let that be the starting point for a further discussion as well. So this Saturday here, 1:30, 3:30 at the latest, I've said, but
You haven't set the exact time yet, or?
1:30 to
Okay,
3:30.
1:30.
1:30 start.
Is this going to be noticed as a special meeting? Okay. I'll be there.
Items from council members. Brent, anything on your end? Nope. Karen?
There's a local connections meeting tomorrow morning at our bar at 8:20 in the morning. I'll pass. I seemed like I had another thing, but I can't.
You guys gonna be the test on their coffee machine?
I would like to at that hour.
What time is it?
It's at 8:20. Oh, I had.
Paul?
Couple of things. Our bar actually is doing their soft opening for coffee and breakfast items beginning tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. And they will be open until noon, Tuesday through Saturday, doing coffee and breakfast. And this Sunday will be the kickoff on their brunch from 9 to 2. As they work into it a little better, become more familiar with what they're doing, they will add lunch and maybe even a happy hour. But they'd like to start small and gear up. So we're starting with breakfast tomorrow morning. And local connections will be there. I will be there.
What were their morning hours going to be again?
7 until noon,
Till noon.
Tuesday through Saturday. 9 till 2 on Sunday.
Ah. Good, thank you.
Through the Washougal Community Coalition, we have organized some training for parents called Guiding Good Choices. It's a 5-session program for parents of children in grades 4 through 8 and is designed to teach skills to help your children how to make healthy choices. For those who don't know, Unite, the Washougal Coalition, is a substance abuse prevention initiative. Guiding Good Choices is a drug use prevention program that provides parents of children in grades 4 through 8, 9 to 14 years old, with knowledge and skills needed to guide their children through early adolescence. It seeks to strengthen and clarify family expectations for behavior, enhance the conditions that promote bonding within the family, and teach skills that allow children to resist drug use successfully. The dates for the training will be May 7th, 14th, 21st, 28th, and June 7th. The location is still a bit up in the air, but the trainings will be from 6 till 8 in the evening. Dinner is provided, and the person to contact is Melissa Wilder over at Children's Home Society. And she will have all of the details and can sign you up. It is limited to 8 to 12 families. If we get more demand, we'll add more sessions. But because of the way the workshop works, there really needs to be a limit on the number of people, otherwise it won't work. Other than that, I think Joyce had something.
I do. I passed out a paper copy I read in the Columbian the other day about the Camas approves a new utility rate study. A few weeks ago, Jennifer McDaniel, Paul Greenley, and I met with Public Works to find out about our own rate study that we should be doing for the city. And it said, according to the contract, the study will be completed by the end of the year for Camas. What's happened to ours? Are we actively doing something about this? Because we bought time, or at least my impression was we bought time for a year.
Yes, we are.
Okay, what?
We have put together a scope of work for an RFP for someone to do our cost of service. We were ready to have that out on the street about 3 weeks ago, but then a vendor that we were working with actually offered to provide some services for us at no charge, and so we're receiving those services right now. That may reduce the scope of services that we have to procure in the cost of service. We're getting those results this week, and then we may be able to modify as a result of getting that information and hopefully lower the price tag for that, and then we will get responses, and essentially we'll get the same. It was interesting because what they're doing is basically exactly what we're doing, except they're doing their whole rate study. We will have a timeline for you on that. Actually, Trevor will be in for his department update at the May 13th workshop, and he'll have details of a wide variety of projects that are going on in Public Works and all the timelines for all of those. So yes, we're actively chasing the cost of service study and are keenly aware of the timeline.
Okay, because
And,
we feel like we need it by late fall. I mean, to hit the budget, right?
Well,
In fact,
most certainly. If you will remember back to the meetings that we had, we promised to try and bring this back to you before the midpoint of the year.
Good.
And the schedule is still the midpoint of the year, which is June 30th.
Oh, great.
So, we're,
That's good.
as Dave said, there's a lot of stuff happening. If any council members ever do not let this stuff pass by. If you've got a question where we are on something, please get a hold of one of us and ask. There is a lot that happens inside these buildings on a daily basis, and there's certainly one that I've stayed on them even as we go through these revisions to it, that we are not moving that date back in that process.
Okay, good.
Like Dave says, Camus's is a lot more involved, the same way that Washington's was 3.5 years ago when it was being brought forward. It's anticipated that ours, once we have selected someone through the RFP process and once we actually put them to work, that it is going to move very, very quickly because of the scope of work that's included in there. For the answers we need and the questions that we're asking them, it's going to go fairly quick.
Will we see the questions that are asked? How will we know that?
We could share the RFP with you. It's public. I mean, yeah, we can share
Okay.
the RFP with you. It's
I'd appreciate that.
yeah, I think there's some concern here that we're being treated like mushrooms. That
Why
there,
would you have that concern?
because there's a lot going on that we're not aware of. And, you know, the kinds of things that we're hearing are just not consistent with what the information that I got just now. So it would be very helpful to have a report on utility rate setting on the whole process, cost of service study, all of the studies involved, every time we have a workshop.
Not going to happen.
It's that important. This is, we spent $500,000 to buy ourselves some time, and that time, a third of it is gone. And so it is critical that we get this. There is no more important optional issue in front of the council. Only public work, only public health and safety and compliance with state and federal law and regulation is more important at this point.
Councilmember, who do you have your information from?
With all due respect,
No.
I have very little information. Is in fact what I'm complaining about.
Well, council members, you are not administrative staff. You are legislative and policy in nature.
Well, let
It
me.
is not the rule, and it is not the process of this administration to inform you on a daily or weekly basis of all of the things that all of our staff and all of our department heads are doing. Paul, you talk like we have wasted 3 months or 4 months of our time. I guarantee you that this thing has been fast-tracked from the start. I guarantee you that. If you feel that you want so much information that you want to be here on a daily basis, we can have that discussion on another time.
That's
But that is
absurd. I didn't
not going to
ask for a
happen.
daily basis. I asked for a report twice a month.
Your comments sound like you are operating in a void and a vacuum, And there are all these things that are critical and crucial to us that must not be happening because you're not hearing about them.
The point is that not just myself, but we are not hearing about them. It would, just to say, well, we're working on an RFP and we expect to have it out by the third week of this month, or the fourth week of this month, or the second week of May.
And when was the last time that you asked Trevor or Jim in a Public Works Committee meeting what the status of those were?
Last week.
And you received information that we're not even close?
Right.
Dave, can you follow up?
I'll find out, yeah. I don't understand. I mean,
I absolutely want to make sure that this council understands how hard and how fast all of our staff is working inside this city. And I guarantee you they are close to a breaking point because we are that thin.
I understand we are that
drop
thin.
things at the whim of the council because it is your prerogative to put other things onto our plates and move things off. Even Trevor's update for Public Works has been moved off for other items that you brought before you, or you'd already have the update. But we can only do so much we can do in so many hours. And I would invite you, all of you, to pass by this building early in the morning, later in the evenings, and on the weekend, because the parking lot is not empty. Your staff is working, your
With all due
temp
respect,
staff-
you're arguing against a straw. You're arguing against something that I never said.
No,
I
I'm
never
arguing-
said that
I'm
the
arguing
staff
against
is
the
lazy.
impression that you have given that we are not moving fast enough or giving you enough information at a given point that you feel you should have. We are working this as quickly as we can and as efficiently as we can to try and bring you the best thing forward, because every time we spend on that comes out of those utilities. It becomes part of what those rates are set for. I am not going to ask the staff to continue to give you updates on a regular basis more than what we feel you should have in order to satisfy folks who want more and more and more information.
A point of information, Mr. Mayor? Mm-hmm. Is this an issue that might better be handled offline?
It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like you all want to hear some information, at least from what Paul's saying. It's a question of all of your
We
money.
can't really discuss this because the Open Public Meetings Act,
Absolutely you can. The Open Public Meetings Act does not
it applies to all of us.
It does not apply to all of you when you talk to myself and David individually or in groups of 3 or less. It does not apply to you whatsoever. You're asking for information from a staff level, not a policy, not a legislative level.
Well, with all due respect, utility rates are a legislative issue. It takes an ordinance to change them, which by definition is a legislative issue.
Are we not talking about process here as opposed?
That's what I thought we were talking about, but Paul wants to get farther in the weeds with it. Again, if the desire is for you as council members to be as informed as staff is, please set yourself up for disappointment.
No,
Because
that's
that is
not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that we need regular progress reports on what in many ways is the most important issue facing this city. And it's my belief that that is well within the legislative prerogative.
Okay. Joyce, sorry about that.
Well, we were told when Brent asked at the last meeting if anything of significance had been pushed aside for the various issues that had been brought up, and we were reassured that nothing had been. So, two things are being said here. I'm concerned because we voted the money to help our utility rates based on we were buying time for a study, for a comprehensive study, so that we could see what we could do within our utility rate structure to make this easier on Washougal. That's where I'm coming from. And we haven't had any information given to us until tonight. What David said is happening. It's good that something's happening. It's not good that we didn't know it, because we did take a vote and people do ask us what's going on. So I think it's important that we know, you know, it's information that we need. And I feel that the meetings that are happening were 2 weeks between meetings, so we get a little bit further away from this. So that's how I feel about it.
Anything else?
No.
Jennifer?
Yes. I have to concur with Councilman Greenlee. I feel like we gave a clear direction saying that this was top priority. It was difficult what we did as far as the $500,000 appropriation, and I think that we heard loud and clear from our citizens that we want this issue to be the top priority. Tonight, we had a lengthy presentation from the CREDC. It was nice, but we could have had something more substantive. We could have been educated on the rate plan, which I have been asking for every single month. We have new council members on this council. They do not have the benefit of having gone through what I went through and what Councilman Greenlee went through as far as setting the rates and why we did what we did and why they are where they are. So I feel a bit frustrated also. That's all I have to say.
Dave?
Having been a staff member, I'm aware that the workings of the staff are not always shared with legislative people. And there's a reason for that. You don't want to get bogged down in the details. So I understand the urgency of getting the information. I understand your concern about not wanting to share the process. I would urge you to share with us what you can in terms of the output. But the process, frankly, does not concern me because it's not my job. That's your job, and I thank God it's your job. And I appreciate your doing it. Having said that, I'd like to bring up one other thing. Councilmember Freeman was kind enough to bring up the issue of prayer and before meetings here, an opening prayer for meetings. And I wanted to comment on that. Our legal counsel was kind enough to share with us his research on Washington law in that regard. A lot of the public came and shared their feelings on it. But I wanted to just touch briefly on what, as a nation, our tradition is on prayer in public places. And Dawn, I see you scribbling over there. I've got a copy of this for you. Our country was founded by people fleeing oppression because of their faith. As a nation, we have a long history of opening and closing public meetings with prayer to invoke the blessings and guidance of the Almighty on our endeavors. An early instance of public prayer in this country by those who founded one of the first colonies on American soil was the Mayflower Compact, which, by the way, is available online. One of the signatories on that compact was one of my direct ancestors, I found out recently through my wife's research. The compact began with the words, "In the name of God, amen." It was signed the day before the Mayflower made port in 1620 and made frequent references to the Almighty. The U.S. House of Representatives, in accordance with Article 1, Section 2 of the United States Constitution, elected its first chaplain at its first meeting on 1 May 1789 and has opened each session since with an opening prayer. The Senate has done likewise since the 25th of April, 1789. So long as Congress or any other legislative authority in this country does not attempt to establish a state religion, there is no constitutional prohibition on prayer at public meetings. In fact, It is protected by the First Amendment. The wall of separation between church and state that Thomas Jefferson mentioned in his 1802 letter to the Danbury Baptists of Connecticut was actually intended to illustrate the protection of religious rights from actions by the state. Jefferson would be appalled that his words are being used today to justify prohibition of religious expression at public meetings. The Constitution protects freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. Those who wish to be free from religion may be so, as long as they do not infringe on the constitutionally protected right to freedom of religion by others. U.S. and Washington law both protect the right to prayer at public meetings. Courts have set guidelines that make such exercise of religious freedom somewhat difficult, and there's always the threat of lawsuits from those who would deny the constitutional rights of their fellow citizens. The discussion the council needs to have is whether to exercise our constitutionally protected freedom of religion to offer prayer at public meetings, and whether we can afford the lawsuits that may follow. It is a discussion that we should have. It should not be shut down by those who would use debate-limiting tactics to achieve their ends. Let the debate begin, and may the Almighty inspire and guide us to a proper conclusion. And I realize that this issue has been taken off the agenda for the time being. I expect it will be brought back by its sponsor, and if it isn't, I will at some point bring it back. It's a discussion I think we need to have. And I apologize to my colleagues for the length of my comments. Thank you for your forbearance. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Connie Jo?
Well said, thank you, Dave. C-Tran representative, we are meeting at a special meeting so that the CRC representatives can come and talk to the C-Tran board. So I wanted to share that with you. I did send an email out to all of the
Thank you.
counselors. So we have a special meeting being called, no, let me back up. May 14th is our regular meeting time. But at that May 14th regular meeting, we're not going to do regular business. We're going to do a meeting with CRC. And then on May 21st, we're going to hold a special board meeting in order to do regular business. So it sounds confusing, but it's really not. The 14th, we're going to talk with CRC. 21st, we're going to conduct regular business. So I want to make sure you all had a heads up on that. And I want to know if you want me to share the update that I shared with Camus last week. Not tonight, obviously, but I'd like to know if you would like me to verbally do that, or I could just send you, I did a presentation in writing. I have it electronically. I can send that to you.
Do we have workshop time for that next meeting? No?
I would say we would have to make some adjustments. We could try to do that. Next workshop, the major presentation is a Public Works update. But I can go back and look at the agenda and see. Counselor, how long do you think that would take?
I don't even know how long it took me earlier. I think 10 minutes.
It was
was
your
short and
presentation
sweet.
was pretty short. They didn't have a ton of conversation because I think they're waiting for that session that you're going to
Sure.
have with the CRC staff. The timing's a little awkward because there is no Washougal Council meeting in between those two.
Yeah. I really think the written report will give you lots of information of what's happened in the first quarter. That's all it's about. And also what we did on that last workshop that we called for the Saturday a couple weeks ago. But then once we have the CRC conversation, I certainly can have an update after that.
Well, maybe start with the written report, and then we can see, one, if we've got time, and
was
then
gonna
two,
say-
if there's more updates coming out of your conversation in regards to the crossing that
Yeah.
may be more informed for that.
Read the written one, and then we'll attend this meeting and go from there, see what your questions are. I did invite you to send me questions, and I didn't get any from Washougal. So I got one from Camus, and I forwarded that to Jeff Ham, the CEO. Should be a good conversation.
Mr. Mayor?
That's all I have.
It occurred to me that we have a spring town hall meeting we need to plan for. That spring ends on June 21st, but I guess we can go to the end of June if we had to, and that seems to me that might also dovetail with this rate report that you're working on. That's an issue that's on the minds of our citizens. I think that would be a worthwhile town hall, perhaps. Let me throw that up to the rest of the council.
I think one of the questions is if there's even substantial enough information back at that point to be able to do something on it before the end of June.
Right. I don't know exactly when we will have the results of the cost of service study available to us to share. We will know that for sure once we have selected a vendor and have negotiated that with them. I would like to be able to have that information for you in time for something before the end of June. That's what we are shooting for. So it's very possible that we could do that. I think that topic is going to be a multiple session topic. That will take quite a lot of the council's time in the over a couple of quarters to work through those issues. So we could try to have that be the topic and perhaps have some real substance to share.
It would be more meaningful to say, set it for the summer town hall rather than
Potentially.
be better for that.
I can know better about that here pretty quick in the next couple of weeks or so, and I think it's still time where we could schedule what would be the spring topic, you know,
Okay.
without that getting away from us.
Okay.
Anything else from council members? Karen?
Yes, on a more fun note, Washougal Lions Foundation is putting on a pub crawl in Washougal. And it is June 8th, starting at 1:30. You will eventually be able to register and pay. You can just only register right now at rivertalknews.com. Yeah, our bar, Amnesia, The Landing, Beer at a Time, Railside, and the Bigfoot. So, and it's going to be $25 if you register ahead of time, and the money goes to, it's called SEDS for Sight, and the money goes to provide, I think, eye care and eyeglasses for, you know, people in need in Washougal. So that's really awesome. So.
Nice.
And that one will be a walk and a run both.
Yeah, walk and run, however.
Walk
you-
or run.
Yeah, get to the next stop. I think it'll be fun.
Shuttle
so-
bus.
so. Hopefully it'll be sunny. Oh, and I will not be here on Saturday. I already have like 3 places I'm supposed to be, which I'm trying to divide and conquer already. And then I'm just gonna throw, since that was short notice and summers were just busy, I'm throwing out June 22nd or 29th for the town hall meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Yep. I just had a couple more things. Our own Meals on Wheels group is having their very first fundraiser. It's Friday, May 10th at the Washougal Center. It's a spring dinner and auction, and they will have food prepared by the Puffin Cafe's chef, Rob Goiter.
Gettler?
Gettler. Is an L in there?
Gettler.
Okay. It's misspelled then. Anyway, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. At the Washougal Community Center. So please come out and support our local Meals on Wheels program for our seniors.
What day is that again?
That is on the 10th of May, Friday, May
Do you
10th.
have electric?
Yep, I can
electronic? Can you
forward
forward that for
that
us?
to you. Sure, no problem. Also, the Clark Public Utilities Home and Garden Fair is happening this weekend. Yep, at the Clark County Fairgrounds, always fun. And one more thing I have to mention, the Camas Washougal robotics team, which is a combination of kids at Camas High School and Washougal High School, and Hawkinson is included again this year, won a spot at the World Championships in St. Louis, Missouri.
Wow.
And they will be leaving to compete this weekend. So please send your best wishes with the kiddos and
Do you have
their
anybody
robot odd
of
job.
interest that's involved in that?
My son.
Oh, your son is on that team. Congratulations, Mom.
There are 400 participants, and that team is 37th out of 400 as they go into these finals. So it's an amazing accomplishment that they're having.
It is, and they are so excited. So please send your good wishes to St. Louis this weekend.
You going with him?
Any other items from council? We will make sure and get you some information tomorrow in regards to the timelines that are set up for the cost of service study.
Thank you.
We will also endeavor to find out why the Public Works Committee received different information than what we have for that and why. My apologies if I got a little bit heated in there. I assure you that the administration knows how much of a hot button utilities are. Those of you, Paul and Jennifer, that were on the council when the last one came around, that was 3.5 years of a study. And we're going to undertake a significant portion of that within a 6-month period. Again, if you have any questions about what is happening at a staff level or where something is in the system, don't hesitate to ask. Your staff is working diligently on a lot of different fronts with very few bodies. And we are trying to keep all the balls in the air, and I believe we are successfully, very successfully, keeping all the balls in the air. So, with that, we are at a point of an executive session regarding property acquisition. No action to follow. I'm going to estimate it's going to take 15 minutes or less for the executive session, and then we will come back into regular session. But again, there is not anticipated to be any action whatsoever to follow the executive session. So, if we could, Rose, if you could go ahead and turn the systems off. If we can have council go ahead and stay on the dais, and Don and Dave, if you can remain with us, that would be great.